Good morning, everybody, all the viewers. This is our second session on Afghanistan. The last session was with Mr. Neeraj Sharma, who is a development consultant and executive coach. He has been in Afghanistan. And today we have got one more addition, Colonel Pankaj Sharma. Colonel Pankaj Sharma has been in artillery branch of Indian Army, and for quite a significant time he has been abroad, and he has been into army intelligence corps as well. So he has got very vast experience. So we have got two very experienced people here, and we are going to discuss Afghanistan. So Neeraj, my first question to you: how do you see the latest onslaught of Taliban, how they are moving forward, and what are the international implications?
See, as far as Taliban are concerned, they already had strongholds since 2001. They had subsided in their activities. They were lying low, and off and on, they kept on exploding bombs here and there just to create panic, and they were gaining ground. Northern areas like around Kunduz, around Mazar-e-Sharif and all, they were holds of Taliban only. Now, with the help of the other neighboring countries, they have been able to do their activities in Jalalabad, in Herat, in the provinces in Kandahar, and so on and so forth. So that way, where they'll progress from to the areas from wherever they get help, and if they have enough ammunition and money. Most of it comes from the drugs and opium cultivation they do in the north. So that is again something which is not very evident from the newspaper reports we see. As far as the international implications are concerned, Afghanistan is basically a country which has been ravaged by the self-interests of the nations, be it the capitalist bloc, be it the communist bloc, be it the neighbors. Everybody wants to have their pound of flesh.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you.
Because of this, the situation will worsen. They will not improve unless the invading forces are controlled.
So, Pankaj, you have been into artillery, and you have seen a lot of action. In fact, last 3-4 actions you have seen as part of Indian Army. You have been into intelligence corps as well. So tell me one thing: the way Taliban are fighting, they are fighting like a conventional force, and they are actually not a conventional force. So how they are able to do it? That is number one. And what weapon systems they have got? Do they really have the heavy weapons like artillery or armor? And they do not have air force in any case. So what do you see? How they are progressing so fast? They are not really a conventional army.
You see, if you go back to 2001, when the fall of Kabul took place, so they retreated. They retreated and they started consolidating. Now, new constitution was, that came into being, and Hamid Karzai became president for 2 terms. And in 2006, then again, when Allied forces, even UK paratroopers and lots of troops came in, and they consolidated quite a bit, and these Talibans were forced to go into mountains and hiding. In 2009, when the surge came in, basically US wanted to, get after Osama bin Laden, and Obama, pushed in about 1.5 lakh troops more in 2009. And they thought they will be able to consolidate and take control. But Taliban emerged that time in 2001 and all from the northern areas and their eastern areas, bordering Pakistan and all.
Yes.
And they were into guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare.
Okay.
So they did not have conventional weapons. They still don't have conventional weapons to that scale. What weapons they have got is basically what they have captured. they have captured, even if they have captured, say, BMPs or infantry carrying vehicles, they are
Okay,
not,
okay.
roadworthy. They are not roadworthy. So they don't have conventional weapons. They are mercenaries. They are tribals. They are, though they have got support of weapons, small arms, and up to say mortars also they have got, but they cannot sustain. You see,
Okay.
the Afghan forces get, aid of $5 to $6 billion. That type of money the Taliban cannot get. Taliban, as Neeraj ji told, that from opium, from extortion, that is what they are gaining money, or from the forces which are supporting them.
Okay, tell me one thing. Do you feel that Pakistani army officers, they are leading Taliban troops? If you call them troops, really?
You see, we cannot call them troops. They are mercenaries. They
They
are
are
guerrilla.
Okay.
Yeah. So now the fear of US was that they should not, get in hands with Al Qaeda, which was
Yes.
foolish to think. I feel it was incorrect. They had Islamist State fighters were fighting with them. Al Qaeda was being protected by them. Osama bin Laden was being protected by them, and Pakistan was the main, force
Sponsor.
behind them to consolidate.
Okay. Okay. So, as the way I understood you, they really don't have the artillery support. They don't have the air force support. Okay.
Primitive.
Thank you, Pankaj. And Neeraj, I have got a question for you. Today, there is a
Right.
statement from US, and that statement is very clear that in case Taliban achieve the military victory, rest assured, we are not going to support them. They will be pariah. If you remember, last time when they were in power, they were recognized by Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. Okay, and they got the financial support. This time, what do you think? What exactly can be the position of the international powers if they are back
See,
to Kabul?
though that is a hypothetical question which has a great chance of becoming a reality, if they
Okay.
control, that is the thing, the countries who support or do not support this particular regime, which would be in place governed by Taliban, depends on the self-interest of those countries, what they want. Do they want peace? Do they want some economic interest, or do they have any other agenda? So if we say US earlier had supported and it'll be a pariah, it is for US to think. They have to keep their self-interest in mind. Similarly, India has to keep their self-interest in mind. If there is some upheaval, some thing going on in the neighborhood, we have to be concerned to the extent it does not affect us. So as far as the Committee of Nations is concerned, it is the national interest of that particular nation which governs their approach, be it UAE, be it Iraq, be it US or India.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. But generally, as the thought goes, they definitely would like to sanction the regime which is oppressive or which is not in line with the democratic principles or whatever we call.
Okay. Thank you. Pankaj, I have got a question for you. Tell me one thing. Last time when the Taliban went into military operations, I'm not talking of when USA defeated them. Before that, when they defeated the Northern Alliance, they northern part of the Afghanistan, they just did not go in the beginning, and now you see what they have done. They've changed their strategy. They have gone for the northern part, and then they have gone for the border areas, the checkpost, between Afghanistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran. So why do you see this strategy is there? They really want to cut off Kabul or government forces from the outside supplies? What exactly is the intention, and why there is a change in this military strategy this time?
What I feel and what analysis has been done by many people, that they have changed strategy of not attacking directly or getting confrontation directly, but tactics of siege. In all 34 towns and kasbahs, what they have done now is they have adopted the tactics of sieging that area. Say if they are at some place, they are, cutting off all supplies, all lines, and that is how the locals who are against Taliban actually are also falling in line. When they say Soviets came and went, the US came and went, why do we fight with them? And with over the period of 10 years or 20 years, the education has increased. With education, they don't want fight. So that is how they are gaining, the Taliban is gaining foothold everywhere with support of Pakistan.
Absolutely.
And the new tactics definitely of siege.
Okay. Okay. So you visualize, what do you visualize? How much time will it take in case they continue with the present momentum? How much time they will take, and will they really go for Kabul for a total military victory? And
See,
that question is to both of
right
you,
now-
one by one.
Yeah, I will tell you. First, I'll answer it
Yeah.
from my wisdom that if the ultimate aim is to gain Kabul, regain Kabul, which they lost in 2001,
Mhm.
and with other forces, say Americans and NATO went long back, and Americans left now. They have, about 2,000, 3,000 people just for training and all. They are
Okay.
there in Kabul. So once everyone leaves, then they are dominating. And whatever deal US did, they are going against it now. So I feel maximum 6 or 7 months time, they'll be able to consolidate the entire country. But
Okay.
yes, what the tactics has also changed here. They don't want confrontation with neighbors or any other country. Taliban's first,
Okay.
previously, their aim was to gain hold and fight with everyone. No, now they don't. They don't want, they only want control of Afghanistan and not fight with India or any other country.
So do you think that Al Qaeda is not there with them? And what Al Qaeda is going to do in future? And will Taliban be able to stop them?
A problem is that Al Qaeda is a foreign body for them. Though the religiously they are one, Al Qaeda and IS and all these, but once they consolidate their foothold and they are in power, I don't think they will entertain Al Qaeda for their country. Yes, they may support their operations in other countries.
Okay.
See,
Okay. Yeah, Neeraj,
what
tell me.
Colonel Pankaj says is right, because the social structure in Afghanistan is very alien and very different to what we see in any of the other countries, because that is a tribal society. So it is the tribal wisdom which rules. 34, 35 tribes and their warlords are
Mhm.
controlling Afghanistan. And if
Mhm.
Taliban is able to control these tribes, they are able to control Afghanistan. Whether they enter Kabul or not is immaterial. In the last election in 2014-15, there were two different sides with two different sets of warlords aligning with two different people. And that is why they had this arrangement of rotating presidentship and so on and so forth.
Yes, yes.
So whether they have Kabul physically or not is immaterial.
Mhm.
If the tribes fall in line with the Talibanis, the battle is won. They don't have to do any physical damage thereafter.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it is a fear tactic, and basically tactics, as Colonel Pankaj said, of siege and basically tiring out the tribals so that they fall in line.
Yes, I do agree with you up to a certain extent, but I'm not really very sure what US is planning to do. The way Taliban is looking for recognition, they went to China for reconciliation. They are in touch with Pakistan in any case. There are some contacts with India, and today US also said the same thing. Look, in case you go for the military victory, you are doomed. And they are looking for international recognition. There is no doubt about that.
See,
Now, okay.
Colonel Saab, ऐसा है ना, what US says from their point of view and their interests.
Yes.
Even if Afghanistan goes down, it hardly matters to the US except for the strategic reasons.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing
yes.
beyond it.
Yeah.
But the countries who are supporting the Talibanis to gain control over a elected government, so to say, have
Mhm.
their economic interests and political agenda and an axe to grind there. So whatever US says, whether they would like to come back or not, is their political scenario in their country, which a constituency which the current administration has to address. So it
Yeah.
hardly matters. It is the local opinions and strategies which will work.
Okay, that brings to the basic question: why did USA leave at all, if at all? Obviously, I do understand.
See,
Yes, they
USA
actually-
USA had to leave because there was a growing discontent within the country, within the US, against getting their own citizen killed in a war which was not their own, which
Okay.
is not
Number
acceptable
two.
there.
Mhm.
Number two, what I feel, if
Yeah.
if I were the US strategist, I would
Okay.
have pulled back long back.
They
Now, what is
thought so.
happening?
They thought so in 2011 or so. They thought so.
Yeah. If I were there, I would have pulled them back. Reason is, as a US, I am talking as US.
Okay.
As a US, I am supporting the elected government, and training, equipment, and everything is being given to Afghan forces by me. The support of $5 to $6 billion per year. And other side, I am also giving military aid to Pakistan, which is indirectly supporting Taliban. This means I am fighting myself,
Okay. Okay.
which is tactically and strategically quite unfair to a
And
country
costly.
that, and what are you gaining? You are gaining, wrath of your own citizens, and also the local Afghanis are getting against you.
That is
Because
fine.
everyone
but-
knows now.
Honey, that is perfect. I could understand that point. But to both of you, the point which I am trying to drive here is that in spite of the fact that USA has left, and I'm sure what Neeraj is saying is absolutely correct, they left with the agenda. Agenda may be like this also, that China gets into it, but China is too wise, or probably Russia gets into it. And obviously, it is not our war for such a long time. That is perfectly all right. But now, obviously, they are bombing with B-52 and all the way from Qatar. All the way from Qatar. So obviously, they have got some interest. They want to have the say. They want to have the stakes. Obviously, they have repositioned themselves. There is no doubt about that. But they want to have their say, and all these powers, they want to have the decisive say with minimum cost. And probably with that intention, USA left Afghanistan. That is what my point is. Today,
And
in Doha.
it is yes, and it is with that intention only they are bombing and using B-52s. They want to keep
Yes.
the cost low, because if they are able to control this conflict now, so the economic costs to the US would be lessened.
Yes. Yes.
Because or else they'll have to increase the aid to the peacefully elected government of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There has
and,
to be a face saver.
There has to be a face saver, no doubt about that. But there is one very interesting thing. Somebody was pointing it out day before yesterday on the TV, on Pakistani General Tariq Khan. You know what he was saying? This Dr. Mohit Pirzada, he asked him the question, from where US Air Force is operating, and he said they are operating from Qatar and they are using the Pakistani Air Force, Pakistani airspace. And then he said, how come they have not taken our permission? Imran Khan says like this. He said, whose permission they are looking for? They are not taking Pakistan permission, and Pakistan do not have the guts to stop them from using their own airspace. So the point is, your point, and Pankaj, of course, yes, it's a minimal cost, maximum advantage. And I think this stalemate is going to continue. Now let us come to the Indian part. Today, there is a meeting in Doha, US, China, Russia, and they have called Pakistan. India was not called. And when India told, look, why not us? So they said, since you are not the problem creator, So obviously you can provide the solution, but right now we are going to discuss the problems. Now tell me, what are the stakes of Pakistan in case Taliban comes to power in Kabul? Neeraj first and then Pankaj.
See, as far as Pakistan is concerned, they have their own interests at hand, whatever their strategy or whatever their agenda is. And that is the reason they don't stop, as you just said, they don't stop US from using their airspace because they find it economically more beneficial in the long run to let a bigger power have whatever they want in their country. So it is for their strategists to decide. But as far as coming to power of Talibanis is concerned, they are aligned politically with Pakistan. So Pakistan should feel happy. But it is again a view which their country and government will have to take. That is what I feel. So they'll be much more happier than they are now if their the forces they are supporting ideologically and materially, of course, comes to power. That makes their life much easier. Colonel Pankaj.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pankaj, yes.
What advantage Pakistan will have? They can have additional manpower to, push it into India. That is a school of thought, but that is not going to happen. That is not going to happen in next 6 years at least, because once coming to power will take time, then to consolidate and regain the lost strength will take some time. After that, negotiations, whether they should help, Taliban will help Pakistan is in their misadventure or not, is question mark, because US has categorically told them that you will not get involved with any other country in their, whatever meeting they had. Also, Talibanis are very clear. They want to get hold of their country and they don't want to meddle with any other country. So
Okay,
even if Pakistan...
That is what they say today. Tomorrow, what they are going to say may be absolutely different. And then what about
tomorrow? I agree. Then what? You are right. They may not stand by their word or whatever their agenda is or whatever their strategy is.
Yes.
But ultimately, if they get involved, then it is matter of regional peace. Then the people who call shot at world level will not keep quiet. That what are you doing? So it is not that easy that Pakistan can get Afghanis to fight in Kashmir or something.
Pankaj, I've got a question for you, and that is a solidly military question. For example, tomorrow all these 75,000 Talibanis and some more, maybe around total 2 lakhs, they are, say after a year or maybe before that, they are unemployed in Afghanistan, and once Taliban are into power in Kabul. Now these unemployed people on their own through the non-state actors, they want to make the entry to Kashmir. Even say, let us say, assume 5,000 people. Now tell me how much fencing or how much electronic fencing is there? Are we better off? Because everybody will ask this question. Can Indian Army is better off now to stop them?
If you compare from last time when Afghanis used to enter in 1995 onwards, 95 to 98, lot of Afghans and Al Qaeda people or whatever they came in. We are much better equipped for surveillance. We guard much better than before.
Okay.
Gaps will always remain in mountains. Surveillance is always difficult in mountains. But what mathematical algorithm calculations can be done is very simple. If right now one person is coming, it can triple, but it cannot go 20 times or 10 times.
Okay.
Definitely not. And it is very difficult to sustain forces which don't have the cultural similarity what Pakistan has got. Their militants get merged with the crowd, local crowd.
Okay.
But Afghanis, Sudanese came, they were identified from 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers, even Afghanis. So it is very difficult for them to sustain even if they enter. So it will be quite a difficult proposition for them.
Okay.
And the other thing is,
Hmm.
if their responses change and if they deviate from their stated strategy, India's strategy for security is dynamic too. So we can respond to them in a much better way and definitely with a much heavier hand. So there is nothing to worry about as far as that is concerned. Yes, there'll be difficulties, but we'll be able to control.
Do you feel so really? And how can you really? That is absolutely landlocked country. We do not have any, on paper, maybe on map, but otherwise we are not connected with them geographically, and they are not really bothered about international pressure. If you take it the example of last time. So do you think how we can put the pressure on the Taliban by any chance if they
How did we put pressure on Pakistan by Balakot? There are many strategies, there are many steps, there are many operations.
Yeah,
everything cannot be in public domain, and we may not know everything. It is for the people who are in power and who are at the deciding seats. They'll decide. But
yeah, Neeraj,
what we can do is to trust them with the best of judgment, as we have done up to now.
Okay, I could get your point that we probably will have some leverage with Taliban, though, I don't really fully subscribe to this point of view, especially in light of the fact what they did last time. But nevertheless, what I feel is that probably Taliban will be under check this time of international powers, and that is what probably they are doing in Doha today. Now, tell me one thing, by any chance, okay, you mentioned about Balakot. Do you think we have got anything like that in as far as Afghanistan is concerned? We really won't be able to use any.
When I'm sitting in company of two army officers, I'd like to keep my mouth shut and hear both of you.
It is going to be very, very difficult exercise, but yes, some leverage is there, and of course, Iran has got a border with Afghanistan.
You see, what I feel. Our network in Afghanistan is quite old. Our foothold of intelligence agencies is quite good, at least in and around Kabul. And definitely, if you think, culturally, even Talibanis are after all Afghanis. So, since a general Afghani likes Indians quite a lot and they are pro-Indians, yes, because of religious fanaticism and all that, they may be against India, these Talibanis. However, they cannot be totally against India.
Okay.
Because culture does affect your minds. Because when everyone is, pro-India, then Taliban is definitely
no doubt. We have got influence, but probably once Taliban comes, that influence is not there on the decision makers. Yes, normal public, as Neeraj has also done the development work there. Normal public is pro-India. But I've got a question for you now, both of you. Now tell me. Talibanis are basically Pashtuns, and in Afghanistan, total number of Pashtuns is around 15 to 17 million, and Pakistan has got almost double the number of the Pashtuns. Now, how do you look at it this point that tomorrow, in case Taliban is there and Pashtuns, of course, they have always been decision makers in Kabul. So how do you see at the demand of Pashtunistan or probably greater Afghanistan? And it is very much possible, I must tell you this.
That may be possible, but as I told earlier also, the Pashtuns are not a single monolithic structure in their society. Okay. Pashtuns are divided into tribes. Say, a tribe from Baglan will definitely have their own interests than from Takhar or Badakhshan or in a bulk. So they are Pashtuns, but they have different ideologies and they have different way of life.
But they control different areas. Pashtun movement. there is, and that movement is, I've heard them, they have been all around. In fact, I heard one of the meetings in London even.
Oh, yes, I was coming to it. That kind of Pashtun scenario has been created by the Western press. But if we go and see at the ground level in Afghanistan, Pashtuns are a divided lot. They may be one kind of a denomination, but as far as their interests are concerned, their tribal interests overshadow the other interests every time. And as far as Pashtuns from Pakistan are concerned, the Pashtuns from Afghanistan, what I saw and had interactions with, they see themselves at a very, they're 180 degrees of each other. They don't see eye to eye that way.
Okay, okay. I understood your point. So what are the options for India? And with that last question, we are going to conclude this session. What are the options in case Taliban does not come, stalemate is there, or in case they come?
See, if I, before Colonel Pankaj answers, I'll just take a short time.
Yeah.
See, if Taliban comes to power, it is their internal matter. They have to decide. If our interests get affected, we'll have to respond accordingly. If they don't come to power, we have been helping the current regimes, democratically elected governments, whoever they were, and our interests and their interests were protected. So if they come to power or they don't come to power, the Talibanis come to or don't come to power, doesn't matter. We have to protect our interests. Colonel Pankaj.
Okay, okay. Colonel Pankaj.
Yeah. You see, right now, in current scenario, we are supporting the Afghan government to the full. Even we are training their military, we are training their officers in NDA and IMA, and also we are supporting logistically.
Okay.
If Taliban comes to power, and if whatever their outlook towards India will be, is unknown as of now. If they have been talking, diplomatically with the US, I'm sure once they come to power, they will have some sense of, talk deal with India accordingly.
Yes.
So let us see how they play their cards.
Okay.
You see, a rogue, community cannot be in power. So there have to be some, every hardliner cannot be in power. So there have to be some diplomacy, something, so that they can,
There are people in Taliban who are supposed to be moderate. And just to add on, there are people in the higher leadership in Taliban. Some of them, they have got the training from Indian Military Academy as well.
Correct, correct.
So both ways. So Neeraj, any point from your side?
No, I feel as of now, we just have to wait and watch, see how the situation develops.
Okay.
And calibrate our responses to the developing situation dynamically as our leadership has been doing, and leave it at that.
I think so. I think that will be the pragmatic approach. We have to wait and watch and keep our cards very close to our chest. Thank you so much, both.
The only thing is, we have to keep India's interests before we decide
on top of our agenda. Yes, it will be there. I'm sure it is there. Thank you so much, both of you, Colonel Pankaj, Neeraj.
Thanks a lot.
Probably after 3-4 days, we are going to have another session. Let's be optimistic. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.